Welcome to Caching in the Northwest. You know, this is the podcast from the birthplace of geocaching right here in the great Pacific Northwest. Now, it's Thursday at 9 p.m. Pacific, and they call me Chris of the Northwest. And we're going to talk about geocaches and geocachers from here all around the globe. So while you're digging out the cold weather jackets, we'll be caching in the Northwest.
Absolutely. It's no longer summer, is it?
Mm-mm.
Tonight, we're talking about what makes for a good puzzle cache with our special guest, FizzyMagic. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. I'm very grateful to be on.
Yeah, or do you prefer Mr. Magic?
No, actually, I do. I actually, believe it or not, I respond to Fizzy. They'll call me Fizzy around here. So you can use that if you want.
Okay, I think we'll do that. So, dear listeners, did you know that according to most geocaching communities, puzzle caches only make up about 10 to 20% of all geocache finds? Is that true for your profile? Give us your feedback, listeners. Let me know. Let us all know what you think and what you talk about and what you think makes great puzzle caches. And stay tuned to find out all those great details from Fizzy. But of course, we can't jump into anything until we bring in our game-guessing gorilla. Some say he is as offbeat as a one-armed drummer. And others say he believes drums are weapons of mass percussion. All we know is he's called a land monkey.
Oh, that's pretty good. Nice Def Leppard reference there. All right.
Yeah, except I think he had pretty good beat.
And you just go to the beat of your own drum.
Oh,
Sure.
I do. I march to that all the time. All right. Well, hey, good to be here Thursday evening with all my friends and all our awesome friends in the chat. So, folks, looking forward to hearing from you as we go through the cast tonight. But before we get any of that started off, a quick reminder that we appreciate the support of our patrons, all of you who help to keep this podcast coming each and every week. Thanks to Land Sharks, one of our corporate Denali level sponsors. And our other corporate level sponsor, well, that would be Cachely. So, folks, if you want to get anything you've seen on geocaching.com, well, Landsharks, LANDSHARKZ.ca is an official geocaching.com reseller. And Cachely, well, they are the premier geocaching app for iOS. Version 8 with Cachely Pro features offline maps of the entire world so that you can navigate while offline, DeLorme and counties so that you can finish off those grids and those challenge caches. And coming soon, CarPlay support. How awesome is that? Find Cachely in the iOS App Store, or, hey, just go over to cachely.com and tell them a monkey sent you. It's not going to do anything, but I just want to see what happens.
The monkey who?
Well, exactly. All right. But otherwise, folks, if you want to know more about this here podcast, well, why don't you head on over and click that Patreon link on the cachingnw.com website.
You can also use that coupon code MONKEY for an additional fee on your order.
I have certain Nick has that set up already.
Oh, but hey, here on this podcast, you can use the hashtag puzzle. Doesn't cost you anything. And if you use that in the chat, we know you want to ask a question to FizzyMagic. So go ahead and use hashtag puzzle. Of course, you can use hashtag FTAS to bring up anything you want in the after show. And while you're clicking around, go ahead, leave us some feedback. Click like and subscribe on that YouTube thing. It really does help.
It just might catch on.
It might.
Hey, our chat's already blowing up with people that are good at math.
I know.
Yeah, Brylang says he's found, 3,261 unknown caches, which is 11.46% of his total finds. Cache and cants. Yeah, cache and cants have 6.94% at 332. Quest, just under 16%.
That's impressive.
It is. It's good. We've also got
Seebeck Tribe at 4.29. Megan, I just saw her caching name and it suddenly left me now when I saw her real name. Yes. 5% for her.
Green Words, is it?
Yep. Green Words at 10.8%.
Hey guys, I don't want to burst the bubble about how good our audience is at math, but the percent is right there in your stats.
Is it?
Yeah. So us land monkeys, 11.66%.
Okay.
Unknown or mystery.
You did that math so quick in your head. Didn't it?
I figured as soon as I said the percentage, you guys would know, okay, it must actually be in the stats because there's no way he's that smart.
I don't even know where the stats are anymore.
There's Megan's RF Youper.
Love
RF
it.
Super 88.
She just called in a voicemail this week. So
Awesome.
Hey.
yeah, I guess you call in a voicemail. Yeah, I had to say that right. I had to hear it back to know if it was right. We'll play that next week.
All right. Well, they just keep coming in. We're just loving their layout. Len Monkey gave away the secrets as he does.
Heather. Oh, I thought Heather was at 562%. That's what I saw quickly. I'm like, wow.
It's 5,629.7%.
Okay.
He definitely wins.
Yeah.
I don't know. Look at Keats here.
Oh, there you go. 16,619.41%. Okay. Well,
You guys are silly.
Okay, that was silly.
people have done a lot of puzzle caches.
Yes.
And,
Which is good.
Yeah. And it's especially good to talk about tonight because, as we mentioned, we've got a puzzle specialist. So, Fizzy, welcome officially again to the podcast. And I'm just thinking, okay, a lot of people in the chat know who you are, but maybe some of the listeners on the audio portion or maybe even the video, maybe they haven't met you before. So, could you give us a little quick intro, like, where's home for you, how you got started caching and all that kind of fun stuff?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me on again. I'm an old time cacher. I first started caching in March of 2002. That makes me older than most people, but not really one of the graybeards. I live in Livermore, California, which is sort of in the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm a physicist. I worked at the lab, and I'm retired the last 5 years or so. I've worked part time. There's a lab in in Livermore, where we create weapons of mass destruction. That's apparently our job. I didn't do that, but that's what it's known for. And anyway, I've been geocaching for a long time. I was around in the early days of geocaching before there were any statistics on your profile or anything. And so I built a bunch of tools that people used back in the old days to do statistics and to do things like projections and things like that before they were as popular as they are today. So I have a challenge named after me, which we can get into if you want or not. It's either way. But if you've seen the Fizzy challenge, that I didn't invent it. I just invented the statistics that it's based on. And FizzyCalc. Yeah, that's a program I worked for Windows quite a while. And I originally called it GeoCalc, and I was threatened with a lawsuit by a company that makes a program that's called GeoCalc. So I changed it to FizzyCalc, thinking nobody in the world would name a program something as ridiculous as FizzyCalc. And so
then the cola companies came after you.
I know, right? There is actually a company that sells a product called FizzyMagic, which it turns out is a bath bomb. So it's that's slightly embarrassing, but that's a
weapon of mass destruction.
Yes, right.
That's right. And I've done a lot of puzzle caches. My percentage is 45.9% puzzle caches.
Nice.
I have for several years now, I have had more non-traditionals than traditional, I find. And that's because I enjoy them, because after the first 10 or 15 years of finding geocaches, finding yet another pill bottle thrown into a bush gets a little bit on the dull side. And so puzzle caches give you something to do. And the other thing I discovered they let you do is they let you work on caching when it's raining outside and you can't go out searching. You can dream about your next geocaching expedition by solving puzzles in the area that you're heading to. So anyway, that's sort of my bio quick and my take on puzzle caching.
I love it. Well, when you mentioned labs and weapons of mass destruction, I sit here a stone's throw from Hanford and PNNL. So there's a whole other homage to that.
PNNL are some of our best buddies. Yeah. Wink, wink. Yes.
All right. Well, hey, let's flip back to geocaching. Puzzle caches. Yeah. Keats tuned in earlier, so he didn't come in on a scary note. But hey, we're here to talk about puzzle caches, and I'm definitely getting the vibe that you know a thing or two about the puzzle. Now, before we roll up our sleeves and get into the nitty-gritty of them, maybe it'd be helpful to make sure we're all on the same page. Can you give what you would define as what one would reference as a puzzle cache?
Yeah, so that's actually an interesting question. A puzzle cache is one where you don't get the coordinates given to you on the cache page. You have to solve something to find them. And I mean, technically speaking, maybe a multi-cache is like that because you don't have the final coordinates given to you. But the idea with a multi-cache is that it's a very straightforward matter of just following breadcrumbs until you find the final. But for a puzzle cache, you really have very little information about where the final is, except for they've made a rule in, like, I think 2007 that has to be within 2 miles of the posted coordinates, and that's about it. So there are all kinds of different puzzles that people make that people have to solve in order to solve the cache. There are a few puzzle caches that probably ought to be traditional caches with field puzzle attributes, where you have to, at the location of the cache, solve sort of puzzle. And I don't really include those when I talk about puzzle caches, even though some of them are assigned the mystery type.
Okay.
So field puzzles, we're not talking about tonight. We're talking about you have to figure something out to get the coordinate.
That's right. That's really what I'm going to focus on. I love field puzzles. Don't get me wrong. I'm just not going to talk about them tonight.
Good. Neither am I. So there.
That works.
Well, we might have to bring you back for another show then to talk about field puzzles.
There you go.
Okay. But so, okay, that's very helpful to narrow down what we're talking about tonight. So, I did have the opportunity to listen to you talk about this at the last Geo Woodstock. I sat down there, listened to the whole presentation, loved it, and then had to track you down and say, you know what? We need to talk. We need to have you on this podcast to give a speech like that. But we can be a little more interactive here on the podcast, which I think is more fun.
That's good. Well, I am famously very opinionated. So before we go any further, let me say everything I'm going to say tonight is my opinion. And if you don't agree with me, tough luck.
I like the way you roll.
Now, I know I approach puzzle caches with a little trepidation, right? Am I smart enough to figure out what the cache owner, the puzzle generator came up with? Am I smart enough to figure that out and get a set of coordinates? And I think I'm not alone in that.
I think a lot of people are afraid that if they try a puzzle cache and they fail at it, or they have to ask for help, that means that they're dumb or something. And that couldn't be further from my point of view than I can imagine. I really think that a puzzle cache that makes you just feel dumb is not a good puzzle cache. And if you do feel dumb and the person who hit it isn't willing to help you, then that's really a big problem. And so I'm on a campaign of some sorts these days to try and get people to make puzzle caches that are a little more approachable and don't feel so much like there's some sort of a competition between the hider and the solver to see who's smarter, because that mentality, I think, is harmful to geocaching, and it's also harmful to puzzles.
That happens in some regions, eh? You get like an arms race of puzzles go on.
Yes, and it happened in my region in the early days. I've been guilty of it myself. I'm guilty of everything I say is not a good idea tonight. I have done
That's
it
how
one
you
point or
learn.
another.
That's right. You've learned.
That's right. So back in about 2004, there was a guy who lived in San Jose who thought that he was just the smartest thing ever. And he came up with a puzzle cache that effectively impossible to solve. And so some guys in my area invented the idea of battle shipping a puzzle, which is where you start hiding traditional caches in such a way that eventually one will get rejected because of its. So we could figure out where this was. This was even before the 2 mile limit. And so the guy had done a 2 mile limit. And it turned out in the end that he'd actually not even hidden a container. He made an impossible puzzle that he could feel good about, and then didn't even bother hiding the container because nobody could solve it. So
Wow.
Yes. So that's happened in my area. And, being near Silicon Valley, there are a lot of people who are very smart, and sometimes they're a little over.
And very competitive.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
All right. Well, hey, I ain't afraid of no cache, and I can feel dumb even without puzzle caches involved. So, but since we want to make good puzzles and people can solve and all, do you have a set of core guidelines that you use that really defines what a good puzzle cache is? Can you share anything about those kind of?
Yeah, actually, I thought about that this afternoon, and I looked back at the presentation I gave at Geo Woodstock, and I realized that there are 4 main things that you can do to make if you want to create a puzzle, and there are also 4 main ways that you can decide whether your puzzle is worth solving or not, I guess, is also. And the first one and the most important is that the puzzle cache has to be fun to solve. Some people think that the only fun part of the puzzle should be after you've solved it, the feeling of satisfaction you get from having solved a difficult puzzle. But in my opinion, a good puzzle is one that you're having fun while you're solving it. Number 2 was you follow some sort of interesting theme. So there's some theme that ties everything together. The third thing that makes a great puzzle cache is something original or clever. And ideally, the solver learns something new. And then my 4th guideline I have is, have the puzzle cache well tested beforehand and avoid some of the major pitfalls that I may talk about in a little bit. So those are my 4 general things.
Well, Seebeck Tribe says, I used to avoid puzzle caches for many years, but in the last several years, I'm willing to look and attempt solving. My knowledge for solving them has grown.
That's great.
That's fantastic. Yes. You learn by doing. And most of the people that I know that hide puzzle caches are willing to help you get through a puzzle that they made and help guide you through. And don't ever hesitate. And my point is, you should never hesitate to contact a puzzle owner saying, I really want to do this puzzle. I can't figure out even how to get started. Can you give me some sort of a clue? And 90% of the people who've created puzzle caches out there will be very happy to give you help. Yeah, I see Cliff Slaughterbeck there saying, I always give help to anyone who asks. Yes, everyone I know is willing to give people help because it's not a competition. It's really, as a creator, you're doing something to give people fun.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
That's the main thing. And if it's not fun, and there are little things that make them less fun, I've learned a lot of those things not to do by doing them improperly over the years. And listening to people's feedback and trying to make something better is great.
Limex says, I have a lot of satisfaction solving early fizzy puzzles.
Yes, that's right. Limex lives near me, so he.
I was going to say another Livermore resident.
Yes, he has experienced some of my early failures. The big problem with old caches that have been around a long time is even if they suck as puzzles, people start wanting them because they're old, and so you can't archive them. So there are a couple around that I'm slightly embarrassed about, but I can't seem to get rid of them. So.
There's a good point on the whole idea of helping people from caching cans. This is the same way I approach my puzzle caches. I absolutely always give help after the FTF. I don't want to give anybody an unfair advantage on the FTF, but once that's gone, then I've actually done, like at events, sit down and just work through them with.
Yes.
I hear what you're saying, Fizzy. Like you want people to find.
And I generally want a puzzle that at least in my area, the FTF takes no more than. So it's not like people will be waiting around for months to get help from me. I've seen puzzles that are still unsolved after multiple years, and I kind of don't get it because you made the puzzle for people to enjoy, and now people have been working on it for 2 years and nobody solved it. Where's the joy there, right?
Right.
So yes, I usually don't. I'm lucky in that most of my puzzles get FTF'd before I have a chance to deny anyone help. But yes, I think I would probably agree with that position.
Just Carlo tossed in, I avoided puzzles too, but then Doramore invited me to check out a puzzle group, and it's been really encouraging. So
yeah, I would totally recommend creating or forming a puzzle group in your area. I was telling the guys before we started that my area, we have an event every week where there's a new puzzle at the event. Everybody solves it together. Everybody helps everybody else. And then we all go out as a group and do first to find on the puzzle, except of course the person who created the puzzle. And we've been doing it now for over a year. Limex comes every week.
So that's why your unknown cache type is so high. You're finding one a week.
Well, no, because about half of them have been mine. So I haven't been able to... Yes, I've been hiding one roughly every 2 weeks. That's right.
Wow.
But yeah. And the problem is, of course, I've solved so many more than I've found. I think I've solved something around 20,000 puzzles, and I've only found 6,300. It's not there, and there are a lot in the Bay Area that I haven't found that I've solved, but I haven't found.
Okay, so when you say it should be fun to solve, what do you mean?
What a great question. So fun to solve means a bunch of things, and there are people who've actually written essays and books about making good puzzles. And some of the puzzle types that have persisted because they have these qualities. So one of the qualities is that you know what to do to start. You may not know how to finish, but there's something that you can work on when you see the puzzle that gets you starting to work. The second thing is that you have progress that you make during the solving of the puzzle where you can tell that you're making progress. And frequently that also helps you know that you're on the right track for the puzzle. But there has to be some sort of, so a puzzle that is just one aha moment and then you're done is a little deflating because you don't have a chance to keep kind of making progress and seeing your progress as you go forward. And the last piece is that, you know, you should learn something or have maybe found something during the solving that's new to you and that has engaged your brain in a fun way. So there are a lot of things. This is why I think crossword puzzles have persisted and people enjoy doing crossword puzzles. I think people enjoy doing word search puzzles. That's another puzzle type that you can find that has been around for hundreds of years that people enjoy. Those puzzles, if you think about them, have those properties that you know where to start and you get some feedback that you're doing the right thing as you go along. So those are good things to try and build into puzzles. And if you do that and be original and clever at the same time, wow, that's a huge win.
There you go. Well, let's talk about your suggestion number 2 as well, following a theme. Can you share with us a little bit more about what you mean there?
Yeah, so the theme doesn't have to be a subject matter theme. The theme can be a maybe I can explain this best by giving you an example of something that a friend did recently. A friend did a word puzzle where you had to find words that were inside other words. So you use the two outer letters on either end made one word, and then the middle 4 letters made another word, and then you put those all together. And you went through a series of these, and it was fun. And at the end, you ended up with another word that had the same property as all the words that you've been trying to find all along, with the 2 words on the outside and 1 in the middle. And then that was the solution that you would then give to Certitude for the thing. And the point is that theme of what you were doing with the words all along was carried through the puzzle and even done again at the end. He and I also made a series of puzzles that we called the recursive puzzles. So we said recursive the whatever. And that's the same thing where you keep recursively doing the same thing again. Yeah, okay. Land Monkey got the nerd humor.
I love the wordplay. That was awesome.
Yes, that's right. I did one called Recurse of the Speckled Band that I wrote as if I were a Sherlock Holmes thing. And basically it was a QR code that contained an image of another QR code that contained an image of another QR code. And eventually you get the coordinates out of that. It was recursive that way.
That's brilliant.
That's an idea of a theme. You can also have a theme be something Star Trek themed, but the main thing about doing the theme is that you would like for that theme to help people figure out what to do at the next stage or everything, and that they can follow along some sort of a storyline, so that when they finish, they feel a sense of satisfaction from having followed that theme.
That's cool.
And sometimes people will interrupt the theme at the last stage or something and do the coordinates out of order or backwards or something because it quote unquote makes it harder. And that kind of thing ruins the effect of the theme when you do that.
So I see your point on that, Fizzy, and I think you're right. I think there's something satisfying about following it, both as the creator and the solver, to be able to follow. It's like following a story. It's like a story arc.
That's exactly right. Yes.
Well, and once you've figured out the technique to use it over and over again is satisfying. Oh, I already know how to do this.
That's right. That's right. Yes.
Well, and that's the attraction to crosswords and Sudokus and things, because it's like, oh, I know how to do this. I can get started on it.
That's right. And a fun thing to do is to have a crossword that has a bunch of themed entries in the crossword. And then there's a meta puzzle around the crossword, which follows the theme of the themed entries. Those are really fantastic. I'm trying to build one right now and I'm having trouble.
Well, you talk about theme in a series. I see Keats said, I have a series of mystery caches that are multiple choice questions. And the series is a tribute to a famous Canadian storyteller. You can check out the Vinyl Cafe series if you're in Southwest BC.
I think I maybe did one or two of his when I was at the Geo Woodstock a couple of years ago.
Okay.
Nice. Yeah, and I guess that's the thing. There's different approaches you can take to the puzzles, and I'm sure we'll get into that.
That's right. And the other thing that goes with that theme is that there's some logical progression, so that the next step you have to do to solve the thing is not some leap out of nowhere.
Right.
That
Fizzy,
makes
actually,
sense.
I want to jump in on something here because you've talked about following a theme, and we've had a few people. Keats Komakino said he's got a series of puzzles based off the Red Dwarf British sci-fi
Okay.
series, and there's definitely the idea of having multiple puzzles that are on the same theme. But I don't think that's what you were getting at. I think you were talking about like within the puzzle itself being contiguous and consistent on the theme. Is that correct?
Yes, there's a really a world class puzzler who joined the geocaching community in the Bay Area a few years ago. He goes by the name Jeremiah Johnson, and he goes and does the MIT puzzle hunt every year. And I mean, this guy is really he's almost he's a prodigy at solving puzzles. And his thing about a puzzle is that you always have to have the puzzle sort of turn back on itself and do something unexpected. And the ideal, which this actually leads into my clever point about doing something clever, is you would love the ideal puzzles are when somebody does the puzzle and then after they do it, they're like, I didn't think that could be done. I mean, how did he manage to get that extra word in there in a way that like you followed through? And that's really the creme de la creme. Those are the very best puzzles are ones where after you've done it, I can't even believe that was possible to do.
Limax is like Russian stacking dolls.
Yes, that was my first recursive
doll,
puzzle. I did one called
Okay.
Russian Dolls, and it was layers inside of layers. That's right. I was relatively proud of that, and I should probably do it again. Something like that, yeah.
So just to and Komakino wants to make sure he can wrap his head around this too, Fizzy. So he's saying for theme, do you mean the same way to solve the puzzles like the ones and such? So all the puzzles in a group that
I'm talking more about a single puzzle having a theme that follows the logic from the beginning to the end, so that every step makes sense from the step before, and you know what to do next. And it's not just a single step. It's actually more interesting than that.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, hopefully that's helping everybody follow what you're getting at there, because I think it's a really good point, because even myself have been guilty of creating puzzles where I take leaps of logic, and at times I criticize those myself. I call them "what was I thinking" puzzles.
Yeah, I have a couple of those out there. One I can't get rid of. That's from early on in my geocaching career.
All right, got a thumbs up from Komakino. So I think he's got his head right.
Okay, good. Yes. And so the next thing is, I love puzzles where it's something that somebody may not have ever seen before. Now, I obviously love showing people weird things in math. Little unknown things like, did you know the factorial of any large number in base 10 always ends in a 0, right? Because 2 times 5 is 10, and then everything else after that is multiplied by 10s, and so you get a large number of zeros at the end of every factorial in base 10, right? That's like a weird math fact that people don't know. And so for me, I enjoy those because I am kind of a math nerd, and that's fun. And there's another math nerd who you guys might have heard of named Hugh, who lives up in Vancouver. Yes, who does the same kinds of things all the time. And Hugh is well beyond my intelligence, and luckily he's in Switzerland this fall. So he's not around to cause me any more pain. But he also does that kind of stuff. Oh, he's a lovely guy. Very, very nice. So
but yes, very, very smart. Whole different league.
Very smart. Yes, I was working on a puzzle cache, and I was talking to people online about it, and he was helping me with it. And it was about, I've done these insanely difficult puzzles, which I can tell you about maybe some other time. I have an alter ego that is supposedly a Russian spy from the Cold War, and then he sets up puzzles that are so difficult that no individual could solve them, but people in the Bay Area solve them as a group. And that's good, because that's the communist way, right? We share everything together, and we have to solve. Anyway, So I did one that involved undoing some modern cryptography, a thing called the Feistel network. He was helping me with that, and I was very impressed with him. And then I realized he was a high school student, and that completely blew. So anyway, that's a weird story. We could talk about Venona some other time, maybe. That would be interesting. Yes, Venona does puzzles that are effectively impossible for a single human, at least in a
multiple
reasonable period
humans
of time.
together, Ken?
The idea is that you get 20 or 30 people together working on it. They can solve it in a few.
Wow.
I'm very proud of some of those that were, insanely difficult to put together and for them to solve, but it was a lot of fun.
Okay, so you mentioned that you enjoy insanely difficult, but earlier you also mentioned that we should avoid some pitfalls. And is one of those making it insanely difficult?
No, I don't mind an insanely difficult puzzle that's rated as 5 stars. What I mind is an insanely difficult puzzle rated 5 stars where the owner's not willing to give any help at all, or and this is after the first to find. I think I would mind that. So if a puzzle feels like it's a competition between the puzzle creator and the solver to see who's smarter, that doesn't strike me as terribly interesting. It's trivially easy to make a puzzle cache that's impossible. I mean, I could do that, the trick is to make one that's maybe a little tricky to solve, but that normal people can do with just asking questions, and that they can do. And once they've done it, they've learned something new. Yeah. And it might be difficult, but for the really difficult ones, I leave them for the Venona, who are groups of 20 or so people are going to work together on them, because there's no fun in making super difficult puzzles for people. Now, of course I fell into that same mindset early on in my puzzling career, where I thought I was so smarter than everybody, and I was going to do hard puzzles that they couldn't solve. And I'm slightly ashamed of, as I said, some of my early puzzles that had that attitude in them. But I think I've learned a lot since then, and as I've matured and gotten better as a puzzle creator, my puzzles are more and more, it's straightforward what you're supposed to do. There are some that are relatively difficult, like, for example, puzzle I made a few years ago. Did you ever play the game Boggle, which is where you shake up these? Yeah. So what I said is, well, I did a boggle, and here are some of the words I did out of that boggle. And if you figure out the order of the strings that could make all those words from the boggle cube, then that will give you the coordinates of the cache, right? Wow. That's difficult. It's tricky, but you know what to do right away. And you have some ideas at least about how to start. So I think I've gotten better at that. I'm the ones I don't like so much are the ones where there's nothing there, or there's nothing to start on, and it's somebody that's hidden something in a clever way, and you're supposed to play hide and seek, find it. Those are not as fun for me. The real thing I think is a bad thing, though, is tedium. So I have a real pet peeve against people who do text-based puzzles where they post an image of the text, or they have numbers and they post an image of the numbers, right?
So you can't copy and paste it. You have to.
Yeah. And I'm not a terribly great typist, and so it takes me a while to do that in. But the point is that if there's a certain amount of tedium involved, where what you're doing is not moving toward the solution of the puzzle, doing some mindless task that just is tedious, I think that's a problem that I don't enjoy. I don't enjoy
like
very much.
Searching for a fake rock in a sea of rocks.
Yes. I've become less. Needle and haystack patches can be fun in a group.
Yeah,
I don't think they're so fun by ourselves.
Exactly.
That's the point exactly. Yes.
IHAM says I had a cryptography puzzle a while back where it was a one-time pad, and the OTP was the background image for the cache page. That's
kind of cool. Well, it was actually the bytes of the image that were the the pad. It's actually not a one-time pad. Well, there's a whole technical. I'm getting these, but if the pad is not created randomly, it's actually known as what's called a running puzzle, because it's a key that the key is as long as the ciphertext, and that's how. But yeah, you could do a one-time pad. For my most recent Venona, I figured out how to hide pictures in GIFs such that every layer of the GIF had a different picture in it. Actually, not one layer of the GIF would have a different picture in it for every GIF. And the reason you could do that is because GIFs don't have a straightforward color mapping scheme. They have a color map. And so if you just do 128 colors instead of 256, you can make an arbitrary image at some bit level of a GIF. And that was fun. But once again, I saved that for Venona because that's the kind of thing that you have to have very specialized knowledge to be able to even start to approach. So the last year and a half, I've been mostly doing word puzzles. I did a couple of what are known as cross number puzzles, which are where it's a crossword, but it's with numbers. And those were fun to create as well. But making a single solution for those can be difficult. That took a while. In general, I'd say one sign of a good puzzle, in my opinion, and once again, this is an opinion, is that the puzzle should be a lot harder to create than it is to solve.
Oh, interesting.
And so when I see a puzzle, I think, wow, this guy really worked hard to make this all work well together. I'm very appreciative of those puzzles, and I've had puzzles that have taken me months to finish, to actually get them to the point where I want them to work properly. And so I don't claim that all mine are that way, but I've had a couple that have been that way. And those are the ones I'm proudest of, and I think people enjoy those. Because the kind of puzzles that I don't appreciate as much, I mean, people love them, and I'm not trying to downplay, but Jiggity puzzles, all you have to do is come up with an image, post the image to the Jiggity site, and have a message come up after they've solved the puzzle. That's about a 5-minute job. And then, of course, if you make the puzzle a 500-piece puzzle, it can take people a long time to solve it. And so the asymmetry in the amount of effort put in by the person creating the puzzle and the person solving strikes me as being not what I would like to put out for my.
Do you think the average geocacher's knowledge of image-based puzzles has increased over the years? Meaning, oh, you know what? If this is an image, let's go look at the EXIF data. Maybe that's got something hidden in it, or, different ways you can manipulate images.
2 years ago, I would have said yes. But geocaching has managed to screw up the images to such an extent that that's no longer. Let me tell you, it's not just that geocaching strips out the EXIF data, because they do strip out all the EXIF data now. So EXIFs on cache pages are no longer useful. But in addition, geocaching does what's known as transcoding the image. So even if you set up a JPEG, the JPEG you get back from them is not the same as the JPEG that you sent them. The bits in the image are different. And there also was a format for images called PNG, which is you can have exact things in the pixels. Geocaching takes those things, sends them out to you with a .png extension, but what they send you is actually a JPEG.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yes, I wrote a rather testy forum post on that a couple of years ago, and of course, like you said, nobody goes to the forums anymore, so no one noticed it. But I was I was annoyed by that, because now it's no longer possible to do. You have to make an external link to an external image from your cache page and put all the disclaimer around it, etc. to have a real. Luckily, they still accept GIFs, and that's nice. But aside from that, they send out what's known as a progressive JPEG, which is a special kind of decoding. And I know all these things because I'm a nerd. But no, I don't think most geocachers know this anymore. In fact, I'm a moderator on the geocaching puzzles Reddit subreddit, if you ever go there. And the number of people who just post screen captures from their phones of puzzles is increasing a lot over the last few. So I think that no, I don't think people understand image formats well anymore.
I think you're right. As soon as I said it, I thought, well, more people are on their phones. You can do less on your phone than you could on a computer. And maybe you're exactly right. So
a couple of weeks ago, I was doing a geocache, and the hint was look at the background image on the geocaching page. And it turns out that using Android, Chrome on Android, you can't see the background image on the cache page. It is effectively impossible to do. So,
wow.
Yes.
Okay.
It's interesting to me, though, that you shared that information about the images and the cache pages, because not too long ago, I tried to create a puzzle, and I was struggling like heck with trying to get it to do what I wanted it, like how I wanted the puzzle solved to work. And it just wasn't working. And I eventually realized I was running into some weird situation that you've explained it. I wasn't sure exactly what it was technically, but it was this just isn't going to work because they've done something. So,
Yes, that's right. I something happened with the lawyers a few years ago, and they got all panicked, and then of course there was the disaster of all the free image hosting sites
Mhm.
suddenly deleting all their images and everything else. So that's the best thing to do, is to have yourself a web server and to serve up the image on your web server and make a link to it on your cache page, and then you can do that. But then you have to, pay for a web server in perpetuity, more or less.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
there are ways
GeoCities,
around
yeah.
that, but again, that involves a certain level of skill that not everyone has.
yeah.
That's right. That's right. But the point is, I don't think that there are some puzzles that I have done that require a little bit more in-depth knowledge than others. If you want to see the one that I'm probably the most proud of that I won't spoil, it's called Land of 10,000 Puzzles, and but it requires that you learn how to use the online dictionary of integer sequence.
I just learned that was a thing.
Yeah, that's a resource every puzzle cacher should know about. Yes, that's fantastic. Anyway, that was a good one. I enjoyed building that one a lot. That should be another one that if you do it properly, you should be thinking that shouldn't have been possible to do. So I love that one.
Limax loved that one.
Yeah, Limax did it. Yes, he did. That's right. He's a good friend here in Livermore.
So we've seen, maybe images aren't the way to go anymore. If you were mentoring one of our listeners, I was going to say a new cacher, but not necessarily a new cacher, to do their first puzzle cache, what would you suggest that they do for the solved coordinates? Do you do all 12 to 15 coordinates, or?
So recently I've been encouraging, and this is a real change in my attitude since early on, but I've been encouraging people to do puzzles that come up with a solution that's a word or something interesting that's in theme, and then they enter that into Certitude and get out. I really like that method. It gives you much more ability to do interesting puzzles that aren't just figuring out coordinate. Yes. So I would actually recommend that for a new cacher. Learn how to use Certitude, and learn how to use the Certitude. There's an alternate page that you can have. So if they enter an answer that's not correct, but it's one that you know that they're going to enter, then you can have a message there that then points them to the right. And so you effectively get on Certitude, two different answers that they can enter that you will be able to give them the coordinates for. I've recently had been trying to make caches that come out with interesting looking what three words coordinates. And of course, you guys are all aware of the disaster that is what three words now. Have you heard of this? What three words decided that they were no longer going to allow people to turn what three words into coordinates through their API. So Geocaching Toolbox and all the other places that have tools that will take what three words and turn them into coordinates don't work anymore. You actually have to go to the what three words website, and there's a way that you can do it kind of at the what three words website. So I'm thinking about changing all of my what three words into Certitudes where you enter the three words and then it just gives you the coordinates. It's frustrating, but that's the kind of thing that happens when you're doing something at the edge.
Right. Now, Fizzy, you keep mentioning Certitude. How is that different than the checker on the geocaching site?
Okay, Certitude is different from the checker on the site in three important ways. The first way is that it can take approximate solutions. So when within, say, 10 meters or so, or it may be 30 meters, but you can have an approximate solution, and it will tell you that if you get within that circle, it will give you the exact solution, and then you'll go to that location. So for things like geometry puzzles, which by the way are a lot of fun, that can be helpful. So you don't have to have exactly the same calculation the person who created the puzzle was. The second thing, sort of,
your answer can be fuzzy.
Yeah, a fuzzy number. Yes. Yeah. And then the other thing you can do is you can put in a keyword. So keywords that Certitude does, it removes spaces, it makes them all uppercase. But people have abused that horribly. There is a whole series of caches in Texas that I call the worst puzzle caches in the US, where they're a picture. And you're supposed to read the cache hider's mind and writing the word that picture corresponds to into Certitude, and then you get the coordinate. And they are truly awful. I won't name the name of the person who had them, but it's a Texas person.
Now, don't hide your feelings. Tell us what you really think.
Yes. But then the third thing Certitude can do is you can have a wrong answer that people answer, and if they do give the wrong answer, then you either give them another hint or you point them at the right answer. And so those are three things that Certitude can do that you can't do with the official check, which I appreciate all of those.
So that takes a little understanding of HTML to get the Certitude link in there. Yeah, but it's not too bad.
No, it's pretty simple URL. And Certitude, if you are a premium member and you sign in, you can log into Certitude, and then when you find the correct answer, it will update the coordinates and the hint and your personal note on the cache page automatically for you.
Oh, so I had no idea.
Yes,
I guess I'm not a premium member.
Yeah. Well, premium member of geocaching.
Oh, geocaching. Okay.
Yes, and then Certitude is a partner such that you can use, and they use the geocaching API to update the coordinates and your personal note to be the hint that they give you on Certitude. That's another thing Certitude is. Like you have another hint that's available for people who solve the puzzle. Not the same as the hint on the cache. So.
Sure. Yeah, I've seen that. Mm-hmm.
That's right. So I like Certitude a lot. In my defense, Certitude was written by a guy who started caching in the Bay Area, but there's a lot of that around. Yes, that's right. So my fourth thing was I said avoid some common pitfalls. So I'm just can I just really talk really quickly to those?
Please.
Okay, so these are things that these are not to do. So I know that I'm being a little negative here. I think I've tried to be as positive as I can about the things you should aim for. But the first one is no 3-digit puzzle. No puzzle where you're solving for the last 3 digits, because there's no way to know that you're on the right way until you actually check. If you do 5 digits each of latitude and longitude, then at least you have the minutes, and you know that the minutes are going to be within a couple of the minutes that you're starting with. And so that gives you the idea that you're on generally the right track and getting the numbers that you're getting. But if you only do the last 3 digits, there's no way to know. There's literally no way to know except for actually doing a check. And I said, frequently I will see 3-digit puzzles where I can think of literally hundreds of ways of getting the 3 digits, the data that's given, and it's not unambiguous. The second thing I talk about is one true page puzzle. And a one true page puzzle is a trivia puzzle or something that there is exactly one page on the internet that has the correct solutions, and every other page on the internet that is about the same topic has incorrect solutions. And so you end up with these ambiguities where you have to go to the one true page. So that's another thing that you run into, and I can see Len Monkey nodding his head. So you've obviously run into that.
It's interesting, right? Because when we first started playing the game, our daughter, who was quite young at the time, has always had a fascination with sharks and rays, and she had created a puzzle cache based on sharks, and the answers were all based out of this book we had, and there were trivia questions about sharks, and we hadn't thought about it at the time, but it was exactly that, except instead of a page on the internet, it was a page on a book. And unless you had that book, you wouldn't get the same answers. And so, people were struggling with it. We're like, oh, well, isn't this? And so eventually, I would Google like, oh, well, that's a totally different answer. Okay, now I see why this is a problem. So I can relate to that, having, our daughter accidentally did that. But I can also see how it's common that people would do that, because I think without this kind of advice, it wouldn't even occur to them that that's a problem.
Yeah.
That's right. So the next thing is what I call the wall of text puzzle. And it's just a long wall. And I've done this, and I admit to it. I've done walls of text where you'll have a few misspelled words in the text, and the misspelled words in the text give you the coordinates or something like that, right? They're just annoying to do, because you have to try and parse through this text. And so that's all I'll say about them. I think red herrings are fine if you have 1 or 2. I've seen puzzles where you'll have 10 red herrings and then 1 correct solution. And that feels to me as if the cache creator, the puzzle creator, is basically taunting the solvers. And maybe I'm more sensitive than the others are, but that's not one of my favorites. And the final thing is just doing something weird at the very end because you didn't think it was hard enough to make it harder. And so there was a guy in the Bay Area who would do that. He would just make his coordinates start at a random place. Like he would just wrap them so that instead of, we have North 37 here, instead of starting North 37, the 37 would be 3 or 4 down, and then everything else would be rotated. And he just did that, he said, just to make it a little harder. And the point is that doesn't fit into the whole logic of the solution or anything else. But there is a magic cure for all these things.
Oh,
And the magic cure for
what is
all
it?
these things is having your puzzles play test. Send the puzzle to 2 or 3 people who don't know the answer and have them describe to you the process of solving your puzzle, what it was like, what they liked, what they didn't like. And in addition to making it generally a much better experience for everybody, in addition, it gets rid of those pesky little errors.
Then you can take an agile development approach.
Well, yes, exactly. That's very much what it is, an agile development approach. And you would be shocked by the number of puzzle caches when they first come out that contain errors that people would find in the yeah. And so just having somebody solve it and make sure that they get the right answer, the same answer you did, and that they can start from nothing and then get there, that prevents moon logic, that prevents read my mind, that prevents a lot of these downfalls that make puzzles a little annoying, is just getting feedback from somebody. So Doug just Limax said, yeah, I've seen earth caches that are walls of text. Yeah, that's a problem. Yeah, actually, I have earth caches that are so large that the entire description doesn't fit in my GPS.
Yeah,
I use my phone more, so it's not such a big deal anymore.
Okay,
sorry,
one
Chris,
quick question.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll go ahead. Fizzy, have you used AI to help you create any puzzles?
No, I have tried using it to help solve puzzles.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And I've been recently using it to make backgrounds for event pages. We name our events things to help people qualify for ridiculous challenges that involve caching in the area. And so we name all our events things that allow people to collect words or whatever they need for the. And so, I mean, our most recent event was something about 13 zinc oxide beach guard kumquats or something like that in order to get all those words. And so I actually go to AI and I will have them make a background picture of 13 zinc oxide kumquats, and we get some pretty amusing pictures that way. But no, I have not actually tried using it to create a puzzle. No, sometimes, especially for trivia puzzles, it can be very helpful in helping you solve it.
Bryling has used ChatGPT to generate some puzzle cache pages for me. I just edited the text to work numbers into the text of the puzzles. You'll only need to extract the numbers to solve the puzzle.
That's good. As long as I can do it with Python, I'm happy.
There you go.
Yes, if I can get the description into a program and run it through my program looking for numbers or something, I'm happy with that. I'm not sure everyone's happy with that because not everybody who solves puzzle caches can program. But
right.
For me personally, it's no problem.
Limax says it was 13 queen bears guarding a beach.
Yeah, there we go. Yes.
And Dora Moore's pretty certain that ChatGPT drinks on Saturday night because it's never worked for her. Just comes up with random weird stuff. So there you go.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's about the prompt too, though. It's
yes,
I've gotten fairly polished at. But what I wanted to say earlier, Fizzy, I just wanted to thank you for coming prepared into the show to bring some of this great stuff. I think brand new cachers as well as experienced puzzle or cachers who want to create puzzles. I think you've given us some. I think you have given us some really good guidelines to work from and some things to think about. So thank you. That's awesome.
Well, you're welcome. I've thought about it much over the years because I really enjoy them. And I have, as you can tell, strong opinions. And my opinions might be wrong, but they're mine. And so I love them because of that.
There you go. But you know what? Opinions are opinions, and there's expressions about those. But I think what's helpful with what you're sharing and framing it as it's your opinion, fair enough. But it's a perspective and some guidelines around it that people can, accept or not. But I think if you look at those guidelines and you kind of walk through them, it's like this makes, like, if you go through the pitfalls you shared, following a path of avoiding those pitfalls would really be able to create a puzzle that follows your four premises that you put forward: fun to solve, following a theme, and original or clever, or the solver learns something new. And as you said, an emphasis on the number one.
Yeah, that's the main thing, is that it's not a competition between you and the finders. It's really about creating an experience for the solver that they get to enjoy. And that's, to me, that's the number one thing that we should be focused on.
Awesome.
I love it. So FizzyMagic, thank you so much. We might have to have you back to talk more, because
Yeah,
I don't think we got through a lot here. That there's a lot more that you're hiding below the surface there.
Yes, I am always willing to talk. I'm happy to. That's great. And I enjoyed it a lot.
Fantastic.
And just enjoyed getting some fizzy insights. And folks, thank you for tuning in. We hoped you enjoyed this episode of Caching in the Northwest.
Absolutely. We want to take a moment to thank our corporate Denali level sponsors. That is Landsharks, LANDSHARKZ.ca, and Cachely, the iOS app. Landsharks is the outdoor adventure and geocaching store. Check them out online, and they're shipping those online orders daily. And Cachely is the geocaching app for iOS. Go to cachely.com and or find it on the iOS store and download it today.
I love Cachely. I want to inject something. Cachely can let you see the background images on your cache pages.
Yeah.
Cachely's awesome.
Cachely.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Good interjection, Fizzy. Thank you. Folks, we also want to thank all of our faithful Denali level supporters. So, of course, that's Landsharks and Cachely, but it's also Cool Cow Cachers and Hawaiian Maile. If you want to know more about supporting this show, well, make sure you head on over to the Patreon link, that's what it's called, on the cachingnw.com website.
Just like Mountain Bike did.
And Trexer,
And Dora Moore,
Log Work,
Green Words,
B Pendragon,
Peach of Washington,
and Teus,
GeoNav Pro,
MC3 Cats,
LG9000,
Geocaches,
UDAC,
the Seebeck Tribe,
Butterfly Girl,
Flagman,
just finding our way,
Kid Vegas 19,
BC Rockcrawler,
Boomer 365,
J Car,
Korsgat,
Skyhawker,
Whidbey Island Gal,
M-Nerve,
Kitty Quest,
The Camp Clan.
The Terrible Teas,
You Talks to Rocks,
Hey, it's Limax.
hey, Genies,
CRS 98,
GSM ×2 coming on the show soon.
nice, Ackerdoc,
Subway Mark,
Team Noltec,
Railroad,
Gas Station Tuna,
GeoBirder.
and wrapping it up, I saw him in the chat, Just Carlo. So thanks to all the patrons, and thank you, Fizzy, for joining us tonight. If people wanted to get in touch with you directly, do you have a way that you'd like them to do that?
I'm happy to respond on the geocaching chat. That's probably the easiest way to get me. And then if we're going to do a more extensive discussion, we'll move to Discord or something else.
Sounds great.
I love it. So once again, thank you guys for taking the time to listen to this episode of Caching in the Northwest. Your support helps keep the quality shows coming. So if you like the show, please click the Patreon link on the cachingnw.com website. Now, if you didn't like the show, and I say this almost every week, I don't know how you couldn't this week, but let us know what you want us to talk about. But if you like the vibe, please subscribe wherever you get your podcast and leave us a review. Now, if you were in a restaurant, you would tip. If you were in a live audience, you would clap. But since you're on a podcast, leave us a free, fast, fabulous, fantastic 5-star review. And of course, you can call in to 253-693-TFTC and leave us a comment, ask us a question, or help us with a puzzle cache any time of the day or night. Of course, you can always email us at feedback@cachingnw.com. Join us every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Pacific for a live show and even livelier chat. This show is produced by Chris Humphenauer, Jim Paulwitz, Jay Kennedy, and Brian Lang. It's licensed under Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license, copyright 2024 by Chris Humphenauer. And folks, I ask you to stay tuned for
The After Show.
The after show seemed louder. Maybe it just echoed in my head.
It seemed fine here.
Okay. Boy.
That's great.
Yeah. Okay. So Fear the Tubas, great name, by the way, says, I came in late, but I loved what I heard. Looking forward to going back and hearing the beginning of the show. Love me some puzzles. Happy to hear more from FizzyMagic.
Awesome.
Well, and you mentioned you like
nice of him to say that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's great. As you mentioned you like to talk. Limax also says that you are a man of many words.
Yes, I saw that earlier on. And he's not wrong.
Oh, let's see. We've got some.
Here's
Yes,
one
there
from
we go.
Caching Cats. They say PSES 5, how to make your own puzzle cache. is an event at the this Sunday at the Issaquah Salmon Hatchery. Nicely timed. That's GC Alpha Romeo Juliet Zero Foxtrot. Are you proud of me, Jim?
Nicely job. I'll pat your head down there.
There we
Below
go.
I would have had to look up at least one of those letters. So
me.
I might have to go to that. That is a Issaquah Salmon Hatchery.
You should.
That's not too far. That's what 30 miles away from Seattle. That's not bad.
A little farther for me, but I'm a little farther souther.
Yes, that's right.
Seabeck Tribe says there's the Terror on the Peninsula this weekend. That is, boy, that's several days of events, many adventure labs.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and they're putting out new caches just for it. I mean, they're going all in. You could spend all weekend right there on the peninsula with the
Fun.
Terror on the peninsula. I'm going to be out there, so maybe I'm the terror.
You
Could be.
probably are.
Oh,
there you
Komokino
go.
had fun caching with you, so
Uh-oh.
he didn't consider you a terror.
Well, that's because the check probably cleared.
Yeah, but he's a fan of horror, so
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. That's not really setting the benchmark
Yeah.
appropriately.
Yeah, he said he had fun caching with the kid, Chris of the Northwest, and MC3 Cats over the weekend at Acito.
That's awesome.
That's
Yeah, I
right.
saw some photos.
We
from
went out to eat together at Pickle Time.
Did you want to Ito after the Cito?
Yes, that's the way it works.
at
That's
pickle
neato.
time.
No, I'm
All
glad to hear that you guys all pronounce that correctly. There are
Sito?
people who pronounce it Saito. Doesn't make a lot of sense. Yes,
Well,
I
yeah,
approve of that.
it's tough, right? Because the English language, how do you pronounce an acronym? Do you pronounce it with, the sound that the letter makes in the word it comes from?
Yeah, that's a really good. That's a great question. But
Yeah.
Italian is lovely because every syllable is always pronounced exactly the way it's spelled. English is a unusual language in that we've inherited
yeah.
so many words from other languages that
Mhm.
Mhm.
the spelling and the pronunciation are pretty much disconnected from each other. Did you guys all get out and do earth caches this last weekend?
Yes.
Yes, good. Yes.
I will say that not only for International Earth Cache Day, not only did I do an Earth Cache, I did an International Earth Cache. So, just doing it right.
That's
Did you
fantastic.
Did you go over to Russia?
No, I went to this strange foreign land south of me.
Oh man, Mexico.
No, a little bit north.
California.
Well,
That is a
Oregon.
strange and foreign land
yeah. No,
Yes.
of
we
many wonders.
we went up to Mount Baker.
Oh,
okay.
that's fun.
Haven't been there in ages, so went with some friends. Had a Canadian Friendsgiving International Earth Cache Day.
Friendsgiving. Hey, is Mount Baker rumbling?
Um,
Not Adams.
Mount
yeah,
Adams. That was
I've
it.
heard
Okay.
there's some stuff going on. I didn't actively see any fumaroles or anything going off on Baker off in the distance. I mean, you say you go to Mount Baker, but when you go to the
Just
park,
making up
you're
words now.
quite distant from Mount Baker. Yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't summit?
No. In my condition, no.
I totally get that.
Well, Komokino, the kid, and MC3 Cats and I were going to go do an earth cache, but we ran out of time. And, the day was getting dark. So I had to go do one on Sunday. I was like, I got to run out. I got to go do this now. So I did one that was the earth cache was incredibly easy. What kind of valley are you looking at? It's one of these three types. Okay. That was easy.
Valley of the Dolls.
Well, you've done that one? The whole thing was poised as a super duper secret agent geography test that you failed. And here you get to go do it again. So
Nice.
that was fun. But from the parking spot to the viewpoint was, half a mile downhill. So coming back up half a mile uphill was tough. That was quite the walk. Okay. Heather says there's a great series in the Portland area called Women in STEM.
I'd like to look at those.
Yeah, and she also created a word find for her event that people would solve, then read the remaining letters for a message about the location of the event log sheet.
That's fun. Like that idea.
Oh, that is fun.
Yes, I have, of course, written a program that does that automatically for you.
Oh, well, that makes it so much
Yes,
easier.
of course.
It does, yes. The problem is when you use too big a dictionary. If you have a list of the words you're supposed to find, it's easy. If you don't have and you just use a dictionary, you can end up finding way too many.
Yeah.
There's a
Oh,
guy
yeah.
who's the guy who Jim somebody who is hides caches in Bellevue that did one that was based on a word that I thought was really clever. I should go back and look at that one. Jim
yeah.
is not the name, Nick maybe or something. But anyway, you have some great puzzle caches in
Yeah.
your
So not bounce, was it? I don't know.
He wouldn't. Bounce tends to do gadget.
Oh, he's more
caches.
gadgets. That's
Mhm.
true. Yeah.
I love me gadget caches, but I'm not
Yeah.
terribly good at them.
CRS98 says the first time I met FizzyMagic,
Oh,
I took him out to Lake
yes!
Washington to free dive for a T5 cache.
Yes, it was just off the university there, and there was a dock, and the cache was down at the base of a piling that the dock was on. I still remember that. That was great. I loved me. That's right.
Wow.
That
There's a
was probably
story.
back in 2008, I'm thinking.
Wow. Okay.
Cool.
Very cool.
And you made it out alive.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It was a lot of fun. We had a great time.
That is
I've
super
been
cool.
up several times.
And I think we have one more here from Keats that says, working on a Morocco mini-series for my YouTube channel. First Moroccan episode hits YouTube October 26th.
There you
He's
go.
got that planned
Fun.
out, doesn't he?
Oh, is this going to
Very
be a
cool.
series of caches you found in Morocco?
Yeah,
Very
he
cool.
just came back from a trip to Morocco. From the photos, looks like quite a trip. So yeah, looking
Oh,
forward
wow.
to the videos.
That sounds like fun.
There you go.
Always fun.
Hey, you were mentioning the one true page pet peeve.
Yeah.
We had almost a one step further in that. There was a college campus near Chris's house, and we tried to find this
thought of
cache
that.
that hadn't been hidden in a long time, or hadn't been found, excuse me, in a long time. And we kind of muscled through it and realized that what they wanted you to do was go to the campus website and pull up a campus map. And you know how a map has dots on it, like number 13 is this
Right.
residence hall and stuff. Well, they changed the map.
Of course.
So the
they-
numbers didn't match anymore.
So the overlay that you download didn't match up.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, it's not just one true page, but when the page updates, thankfully,
It's
I think we went back to like, Internet Archive Wayback Machine and found an old graphic or something, or just Armstrong did. I don't
It
know.
never
but-
worked right. Yeah.
Yeah. But
I
yeah,
ended up reaching out to a previous finder.
yeah.
And said, hey, how did you do this? Oh, here's the coordinates. That's not what I wanted.
So there is a trick that you can do on Wikipedia that will give you the Wikipedia as of any date in the
Mhm.
past.
Hmm.
And so I do that not infrequently on on trivia caches. I will actually set it to a week before the cache was hidden, and then then use the Wikipedia from then, because Wikipedia pages also change a lot.
Yes.
Good tip.
Yeah. Awesome.
Oh, Fizzy, we had a lot of fun. We
Thank
probably
you
went too
so
long.
much for having me.
but we had
I can talk a lot. I apologize for that. I
No,
think I
we love it.
warned you in advance.
Yes, you did. And no apologies needed.
Yeah,
So-
so I would love to come back sometime. That's great. I had a great time. Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, you're
Love to
welcome.
have
We'll
you.
get you scheduled to come back. And folks, thanks for tuning in. And until next week, get out and get caching in the Northwest.
That's right. By the way, Cliff was right.